Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. We are finally feeling stuffed after eating so much dangerous soup at the kids' table, but we have one more piece of children's horror to sink our teeth into. Today, we are talking about R.L. Stine's Night of the Living Dummy, the 7th novel in his famous Goosebumps series. I'm Marilee.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm David.
And we want to thank all the bats in our belfry for being part of our amazing community by supporting our fear-coded Patreon. Thank you to Will, Knight of Cups, Doug, Jacob, Alyssa, Blake, Puckish Rogue, Tyler, Derek, Maureen, and Tommy. Now, before we start putting our hands on our faces and screaming, "Oh no!" I want to check in with my co-hosts to see just how things are going for them in the landscape of horrors our real world has to offer. What's making y'all feel scared, or what's making you feel prepared?
Gain, I am feeling both scared and prepared, which is, I think, is like the second week in a row that I have done this. I'm breaking the rules.
So many, Tyler. So many things. You just have so many feelings. You're like that girl at the climax, the emotional climax of Mean Girls.
Yes, I don't even go here though. So, but I do. Never mind. We're getting
Tyler,
in the weeds.
you definitively go here. You're one of the 3 people who go here.
Yeah, I'm getting into the weeds here. I am scared and prepared because I'm about to experience my first snow. Not my first ever snow. I have seen snow 6 times in my life. This is my first snow as a resident of the Midwest.
Wow. Marilee and I gave you so many snow tips last time because it was all about preparing for interacting with snow. But now, what I don't think we did, Marilee, because we were so focused on
the shoes.
The shoes and the gloves, is we didn't prepare Tyler emotionally for snow.
It's true. Or you live in an apartment, right? So you don't have to worry about snow proofing. Thank God. It's fucking sucks.
Yeah, no, I am not interested in any of that boring shit. I'm excited to open up the sliding glass curtains and just the regular curtains. They're not made out of glass. I'm not rich.
Wow. Ineffective curtains also, if they are made of glass.
Well, it's like a Balatro when you have a glass playing card. As long as it stays on my wall, I'm racking up passive points.
Okay. Well, I love that. I'm
excited to look outside and see even a slight dusting of snow. I'm excited to see it come down. I can't wait to just be a part of that magical moment. The last time I saw snow, I was with my friends. We were in a cabin in Michigan, and when it started to snow, I went outside and I just kind of stood out there and I was just looking up at it. And apparently, I just had the most magical Coca-Cola before AI kind of moment where it was
nice.
He's beginning to believe it's Christmas magic, that kind of crap. And I am excited to experience that feeling again, but I'm also nervous because it's what if there's lots, or what if there's more? What if it's slushy?
Yeah.
What if I have? So we're getting boots, we're getting shoes. Don't worry, we got the good treads. I have taken the lessons to heart. However, don't have them yet. So
okay. Soon.
For sure, soon. So I have to get that, and then I'll be golden like Huntrix.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have snow tires yet? Do you know about chains and all that stuff?
We have been told that we don't have to worry about that where we are.
Okay, great.
Not if they're gonna. If you were gonna go into the country, it might be a problem, but you should be fine in your city.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. We've also been told they're really good about plowing around here. So again, feeling pretty good about that, especially because Marshall is the driver. I'm usually passenger princess.
Elite. We love that.
And so I'm feeling good. So I would say I'm definitely more in the prepared column, but there is a little hint of fear, like a soupçon of terror.
Wow, fancy for soupçon of terror is great with the dangerous soup. So.
Oh, so true.
Yeah, I don't even think that's the first time soupçon of terror has been mentioned on this podcast.
And yet I don't think we mentioned it during the Tale of the Dangerous Soup.
Correct.
Very
I think
on
we
brand.
let that one slide by, but I believe in our introduction, the term soupçon of horror was used, only because I believe that was almost the episode title before we went with fainting couches.
That's so us, frankly.
Very much so, yeah.
Incredible.
Well,
incredible. I'm excited for you, Tyler. I think your ratio is correct. the first snow in particular is usually more exciting, even for places where it snows pretty frequently. People usually enjoy that first snow.
Well, I am feeling mostly prepared with a little scared. Marilee, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling all over scared, frankly.
Oh,
Wow,
yeah.
all over scared.
Yeah, so I'm not prepared today. And thus by the metric of our decision tree, I am scared.
Okay.
our tree that has 2 branches. And
That's
yet
correct.
we have created a third.
A secret third
yeah.
thing that we talk about sometimes, and sometimes we're on both branches. It's very difficult, but like I'm only on the scared branch today. Here's the thing. I have been watching this show with my sister. She started watching it last year, got very, very excited. About halfway through season 2, got less excited because the show is it's really good, but like some bad stuff happens. The new season is coming out, I think, in January. I'm not sure. That's none of my business. Here's the thing. She decided that we're going to be watching it together. And so we have been watching it, and here's the thing. I really, 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 really want to watch more Jujutsu Kaisen, but I can't watch it without my sister, and she is too busy to make time for me to watch this show that I'm really enjoying. I know that it's gonna break my heart and all that shit, but like I gotta wait for her to be ready. And it's ruining my life, especially because I said the words Jujutsu Kaisen near my phone, and so obviously everything is trying to like throw stuff at me, but I can't look at it because it might have spoilers, because I know that like bad shit goes down. I don't know what happens. Presumably everything bad in the world.
Everything bad in the world.
But I don't know, and I cannot look, and it's really bumming me out that I cannot watch this fucking show.
And really what's on the line here, Marilee, is not just your entertainment, but it is the very bond of sisterhood that is on the line.
Exactly.
You're an adult. You could go watch this without your sister, but that is the most ultimate type of betrayal. I think we can all agree.
Yeah. No, especially because when things are happening, if I look to my left, I know that my sister will not be watching the screen. She'll be watching me and like if I already know something that I cannot react correctly, and that's going to be a bummer. Like that's a betrayal.
Okay. I understand.
This is a big move.
It's difficult.
Marilee. I have very little knowledge of Jujutsu Kaisen. I have seen the first episode once, and I don't remember much of it at all. And then I also know that domain expansion is a thing where it's like I've created some sort of bubble of my will over other people or something, or it's like an alternate plane of existence that has been created. I do not understand. I just like saying it, and then Marshall looks at me like, how the fuck do you know that?
Wow. I mean, that's the reaction I would get if I mentioned it to Mike. He would feel like, I'm not watching that. You and Danny can watch that.
Well, I was going to say, David, like, does Danny...
Yes.
Yeah.
Feels like a boyfriend thing. I don't know, though. I don't need to introduce media. He's trying to go through the MCU right now. That's his like main priority, is because he's never seen a Marvel movie. So he wanted to start at the beginning, which became a source of contention. But yeah.
Wow.
I mean, what a choice. What a choice to make in the year of our Lord 2025.
I know, we kind of missed that boat. I feel like now you're better off just not getting into the MCU.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, but it didn't come over here the same way that it was in the States. So it's got that weird delay thing.
Yeah. As a dyed-in-the-wool Marvel person who saw Iron Man in theaters opening weekend, like my dad picked us up from school and we just went to the theater because he was also excited. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Like, I simply cannot recommend watching the entire MCU.
That's what we're doing, Marilee. I don't know what to tell
David.
you.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that has nothing to do with Marilee's being scared of both familial commitment and a delayed gratification of knowing what comes next, even though you know you are driving towards a cliff.
Oh, yeah, no, like, I'm going towards the cliff. I know that I'm going towards the cliff. My sister is sitting in the passenger seat, eating popcorn as I am driving towards the cliff. And, like, I also want to hit the gas pedal because I want to know what happens. Because I know that there's a cliff coming. I just don't, I'm blindfolded, so I don't know where the cliff is, or how many rocks the car is going to hit on the way down. Probably all of them.
I'm picturing this in a vivid Thelma and Louise situation, and you just keep adding more vivid details to it.
Tyler, that is fascinating to me because while yours is probably the better reference, I was imagining Marilee and her sister in a Wacky Racers situation. The Hanna-Barbera racing cartoon.
I was also thinking Duel, but that is less befitting because you don't. I guess the threat of spoilers is the giant mysterious semi-truck driving up behind you while Steven Spielberg films you. But I think the Thelma and Louise of it all is still like, the best one.
Yeah, because like there's a bit in Thelma and Louise where they're having a great time, and I'm like in the great time part of Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, you guys took that picture, that Polaroid at the start of watching Jujutsu Kaisen.
Brad Pitt is there. Yeah, this is the fun time of the movie.
Yeah, I'm discovering that I'm so good at crime. It's
hell yeah. Wow. Well, be gay. You do crime.
You and Marion Crane just having a blast over here.
Yeah, exactly. David, what is making you feel scared or prepared?
Listen, I feel prepared this week. Mine is also media related because in between the medicine which I must take, which is The Incredible Hulk or whatever it is that we just watched recently.
Oh boy.
A while ago, this happened a while ago, so we've been sleeping on it a little bit. But wow, that season 2 of Interview with the Vampire became available for streaming, and we have been very, very methodically going through it. We're not doing too much at a time. We're sort of savoring it and enjoying it. It's a show that we watch without our laptops open. It's a very like in it experience thing. Mike makes the lights do their like light thing where they match the sort of vibe of the TV.
I love that.
Yeah, but not. He used to have it set up when we lived in the States that the edge of the TV, the behind the TV light would change with whatever was at the edge of the TV.
Incredible.
And it sounds incredible. In practice, distracting.
Ooh, okay.
I could see that.
If you go from a dark screen to a bright scene, like it's like looking at the Ark of the Covenant. Like it is not okay. It's not okay. It was great. I'll tell you this. It was great playing Death Stranding with that feature on.
Oh, yeah.
That was immaculate. No notes there. But
you know what I bet would be really good with that setup is Red Dead Redemption 2.
If I could play more than an hour of Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm sure I would enjoy that time.
I will come to Spain. I'm going to play that game for you, and you're going to enjoy it. Damn it.
The problem is I don't want to get on a horse, Tyler. I don't want to get on a horse.
That's why I'll get on the horse for you.
Okay, well, that's fine. If you get on the horse for me, I'll do everything else. I just didn't like the horse part. I just want to walk everywhere, and it's way too big to walk everywhere.
David, I truly feel like we established on Blue Sky that if we were in a Disco Elysium scenario, you are my steadfast Kim Kitsuragi who has one cigarette a night.
Every night.
Every night, but just the one. And then I am crazy, easily forgetful, making surreptitious leaps in logic and mentioning communism, queerness every moment I can.
Yep.
But sometimes we also like to trade hats, and I'm feeling that moment right now.
Yeah. I'm a big walker in video games. I know this has nothing to do with my prepared, which is Interview with the Vampire, season 2. Fucking fantastic. We have played 2 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Left. But yes, just as a side note on preparedness, I love to walk in a video game. Couldn't be fussed with a horse. Generally, don't like a car either. I played that whole Sleeping Dogs GTA clone without ever getting a car unless it made me get in a car.
There's cars in that game?
Sleeping Dogs? Yeah. The whole point is like, I don't know, you're in like Tokyo. Why want to walk around? This is a very walkable city.
That's what I thought. I thought it was all walking.
Yeah.
And Emma Stone is there.
Emma Stone is there?
She's like in the very beginning of the game.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I played it a long time ago.
Yeah, she's in the game. So is another actor whose name I can't remember, but he was brilliant. He's passed away. But yes, Emma Stone in a video game way before she ever had an Oscar.
Emma Stone, come on the podcast.
Oh,
genuinely. Come talk about Begonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, no, Emma Stone can't come on the podcast because we're talking about a novel that she may have read. This actually feels like very Emma Stone coded. Emma Stone, come on the podcast and tell us if you read this book. Because we are talking about the 1993 novel, Night of the Living Dummy. This is the 7th work in R.L. Stine's Goosebumps series, which are a series of horror novels intended for young, school-aged readers. Novels are typically disconnected from one another, although the ventriloquist dummy Slappy, whose first appearance is in this story, reappears frequently and has become a mascot for the series. Ironically, in this story, Slappy plays second fiddle to a different dummy named Mr. Wood.
Penis joke. The author, Robert Lawrence Stine, has been called the Stephen King of children's literature, and given the breadth of his work, that would be accurate. The original Goosebumps series was released from 1992 to 1997 and is composed of a whopping 62 books. Since then, Stine has written multiple spin-off Goosebumps series. Stine is also the second highest selling American children's author, just behind Dr. Seuss, and he is highly lauded for his part in encouraging children to read.
Yeah.
For our first foray into Goosebumps, we decided to go with a classic. Who isn't afraid of a creepy ventriloquist dummy? Considering how many Goosebumps books there are, not to mention Stine's Fear Street series and its explicitly queer film adaptations, which we will cover someday, that is a threat, this will certainly not be the last time we return to Stine's works. What's everyone's experience with Night of the Living Dummy and the Goosebumps series as a whole?
Let me just start here, because I think I did read some of these as part of a corporate promise from Pizza Hut to give me a personal pizza for reading books.
Nice.
Book
But
it.
Yeah, book it. I don't think this one was one of the ones I did for that, but I also then don't know why I would have read others of these. I remember them having lavish and huge displays in every bookstore that we would go into.
Mhm.
And that sort of pulled us as consumers into doing it.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then typically my aunt, who was the one who took my cousins and I to go book shopping, would pull us away to a more discount bin situation, which also had plenty of things that we enjoyed reading.
Mhm, mhm.
And so she was right to do so.
Mhm, mhm.
But I remember these being actually fairly accessible. Maybe they were also at the school library, but truly and honestly, after that sort of experience as a child, I have touched nothing else Stine. No Fear Street, no related TV film adaptations. This is kind of it. And reading this, if I did read it as a child, there was no memory of it. So this was like a totally new experience for me. Marilee, what about you?
So I was definitely more of a Magic Treehouse girly. Like, I read those books a bunch when I was a kid. David's looking confused. The Magic Treehouse
I
was
am.
a children's series where two kids would enter this treehouse that was, of course, magic, and it would take them to different points in history, so where they would like go and like do experience a historical event and like try to bring something back, and then because they had to like, I don't remember the exact premise, but you had to get something in order for the treehouse to take you back to the present.
Yep.
Okay.
They went to the Titanic. I remember that one.
Yes.
I read, I think that was my first ever Magic Treehouse book, was the Titanic, because as every other millennial in 1997, I was obsessed with the Titanic.
Oh,
Sure.
obviously, yeah. No, we all were obsessed with the Titanic.
We all had a
I-
book that talked about the Titanic.
Oh, always. And I think the one that I remember most distinctly was the one where they went to Pompeii. Because that one, it was a fun natural disaster movie. I liked that, the Magic Treehouse books. I think I must have read some of the books when I was a kid, but I simply don't remember any of them. The one that I distinctly remember being in my house, so one of my siblings must have read it, was a Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebump.
Oh.
Where there was like something in the basement, like I think it was like the Tale of the Cursed Peanut Butter or something. And I remember thinking it was A, stupid, but B, I was scared of it, so I don't think I ever read that one. I did watch the Goosebumps TV show though.
Okay. Okay.
What about you, Tyler?
I was too scared to read Goosebumps as a kid. I remember very distinctly in third grade, my third grade teacher, Miss Preeby, rest in peace, she was wonderful. She did have a little personal library in our
Okay.
reading nook area,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
she had a huge swath of Goosebumps books that were either like previously owned by the school library, or she got them from other libraries in the county, and just also got them because, you know, back in the day, back in the mid 90s, I like to imagine that school districts were a little friendlier to teachers than they are today. But yes, she had a whole collection of them. Whenever it was reading time, people would go over. I remember all the boys would pick Goosebumps, and then I would like probably had Harry Potter on me, so I was reading that.
Mhm.
Curse me, its name. But honestly, I'm glad I did not read Goosebumps as a kid, because I knew that I would be scared shitless by it. And as an adult, I am so glad that as a young person, I was self-aware enough to know that, because yeah, this shit would have scared the fuck out of me. It was like, I think like as an adult, it like feels scary in a different way because I'm just like, these poor children. The parent, no adult will help them.
Oh my
But
God. That's awesome.
but as a kid, I just would have been terrified by like the ventriloquist dummy exists and your parents don't believe you. Or the evil ventriloquist dummy exists. And then also R.L. Stine, Columbus's favorite son, so always going to love him from this point on. I did hate the ending, however.
Yeah. Boo,
Yeah.
Boo.
No, it was not good.
We'll get to it. It was not good.
Terrible ending.
So was this a Scholastic book?
Yes.
Was this like
Oh
a
yeah,
Scholastic
every
book fair
Goosebumps
book?
was a Scholastic book for sure.
Okay. I was trying to think of where else maybe I got exposure to this, and as Tyler was talking about the like reading nook and maybe the school district being a little bit better, and these were the days in which Scholastic would actually give teachers books as part of their like bribery to come into school and sell merchandise. But like something at least good for teachers came out of that. That might have also been how I got exposed to them because that is ringing a lot of bells, and I didn't really connect the Scholastic Book Fair dots on this one.
Oh yeah, Scholastic Book Fair always had a huge Goosebumps spread.
Okay.
I remember there was always like a little Harry Potter section, a Goosebumps section, merchandise just on tables all over the place. And then just like the rest of the Scholastic, catalog.
Okay, so speaking of Harry Potter, Cursed Be Its Name, and Goosebumps in the same breath, I gotta ask, Tyler, when did you stop reading like books like Goosebumps? Because I remember very specifically, because like I read Harry Potter in like second grade, and I remember looking at other like small books. Yeah, I know, I'm a lot younger.
Sorry,
than you,
David.
So old. I'm so old.
My third grade teacher, Miss Preby, is who exposed us to Harry Potter. She was reading Sorcerer's Stone to us. Oh, sorry, David. Sorry.
It's fine. No, it's great. The time will come for you all.
Yeah, I don't know. It's already coming.
It's already begun.
Yeah. No, but so like I remember after reading the Harry Potter books, I remember looking at like The Magic Treehouse, which again was a series that I really liked from like pre-K to around second grade, and I just thought, why bother reading a little book like that when I could have like a big book?
Oh my God, yes, Marilee. Yes, exactly. We are sharing the same gifted kid brain cell, because that was exactly my thought, was like, well, I don't want to read any of these books because I've been reading Harry Potter.
For babies. Yeah.
These are clearly for babies. And then also the Harry Potter books and other like big size novels have so much more points in Accelerator Reader.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I do know about this program.
Yeah. So we all had Accelerator Reader, the AR program. No,
I don't think it was called that, but we did have like a lot of reading things. I switched to other books, but I stopped reading like stuff like that. I remember I read a lot of like nature kid books, but like actual proper like novels for children instead of like the little baby books. Like Goosebumps were so thin. I got you did get more points for other bigger books.
You did, and then that would have gotten you a better chance of getting a personal pizza from Pizza Hut.
Okay. So I wasn't aware how Accelerator Reader connected to your Book It program. You know that our Book It program was like straight up just a book, and a lot of it was some like fucking honor system shit, which I'm sure why that was not the case by the time you all were the same.
Oh yeah, no, you had to take a rigorous. Oh goodness, David, keep that in. A rigorous AR test afterwards that would ask you obscure questions from the book, usually about 5 to 10. That were like, who did this? What was this about? They were multiple choice, but they were intense. And if you failed, then you had to reread the book.
That's insane. We didn't have that.
You could either reread it or you can move on to a different book, but it was still just like, well, I guess you didn't get credit for reading 300 pages. Sorry.
Wow.
That's nuts. No,
yeah.
I think like ours was more honor system based. Again, I think it was a program with the school and like local like pizza places or something. I remember distinctly in elementary school, I think I was in 5th grade. At one point there were like 2 like challenges, one like statewide and one was like at our school. And I got to a point where the librarian was like, okay, well, you got to choose which kinds of books are you going to be reading? Like, which one do you want your points to go for? Because like there are only so many points like time you can read. And I don't remember what choice that I made, but I ended up regretting it because like the other prize ended up being cooler.
Yep, I remember that. I remember that exact sort of conversation that you would get from the librarian. It was like way too much pressure for an elementary schooler to have to deal with. Like crazy. Also, I am just now remembering we did not do the Book It program at my elementary school. We did, so back in the day, back in the 90s, Olive Garden used to have a similar program. And if the class completed the program, if you got all the way filled up, like you filled up the thermometer with all of the number of books that you've read, Olive Garden would bring spaghetti and breadsticks to your school to feed your entire class.
What?
Yeah,
Genius idea to make all of us so quiet for the rest of the day.
Oh yeah. I think
Wow.
it was like the Sunshine State Readers Program, right? Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Every time I remember the fact that we grew up like within a very close range of each other and never met when we were
I know.
kids does drive me
We might have
insane a little
even
bit.
we might have even gone on like the same field trip somewhere. Like that's crazy.
No.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. We never, because you were a lot farther north than I was. We never, like, especially because my school was so big, we didn't do field trips with other kids.
That's fair. That's true. Well, we are not here today to discuss all of our childhood traumas and field trips, missed and present for. Instead, we are here to discuss the themes for today's episode, Night of the Living Dummy. Our first theme would be Green-Eyed Monster. So our two main characters, Chris and Lindy Powell, have a serious case of sibling rivalry. Being twins, the girls struggle to form their own identities. Lindy gets a ventriloquist dummy, so Chris needs to get a dummy. Lindy gets to perform at a party, so Chris has to perform at the spring concert. This jealousy causes Lindy to act out, tricking Chris into thinking that her dummy, Mr. Wood, is alive. However, when Mr. Wood actually does come to life, Lindy and Chris are united in their effort to defeat him. Still, there's no overall moral lesson learned here, which is fine with R.L. Stine. He's discussed in interviews that he wants kids to laugh when they read his stories. He just wants to entertain them without moralizing.
Yeah, I did kind of like the absence of a morality play, but I liked jealousy and competition between the twins as a primary, then becoming secondary conflict motivator.
Oh, same.
And then an abandoned conflict motivator, that's also fine. You can abandon a conflict motivator. But there wasn't a lot here to throw overboard. Like,
No.
we could have used that gang. But whatever. I had a good enough time with this. I do think it's important to see this type of jealousy represented in a children's novel. But I agree with Stine. Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, we learned the lesson that we're better together. Like sometimes the lesson is like, watch out for steamrollers, and like that's all it takes, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, as long as it gets kids reading, like back in the 90s, I don't think this is talked about as much as it used to, but back in the 90s, there was a serious dearth of children reading books. Kids were interested in everything else but books, because books, you had to read like Tom Sawyer and shit, stuff that elementary schoolers were not interested in. Harry Potter, Cursed Be Its Name, did a huge effort to shift that to get kids reading, which I think is still commendable just for the pure act that it made kids read and then hopefully read different books. Goosebumps, however, which was, I think, probably more of a phenomenon in the United States, really, really, really jumped this effort into like sky high. I remember, so this is all anecdotal, but I do remember that a lot of the boys that I would see reading, they would read Goosebumps as opposed to other types of books. And I had multiple friends who would read Goosebumps, would read the Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebumps books. And I never read it because, again, I was too scared. But it was like the thing. It was like a cool thing to do. And when you would go to the library, most kids would check out Goosebumps books. And I think that's wonderful. So I think R.L. Stine, even if you don't include a moral lesson in this, Lord knows kids get that enough from other children's like morality plays and books and TV shows and all that stuff. So it's okay just to have like a Outer Limits, Twilight Zone style of story. Wish the ending was better, but still, I think that's okay. Sometimes it's all right to eat a cookie after eating your vegetables.
Yeah. And this last bite of the cookie was the part of the cookie that fell on the floor that we were like, we're not going to eat this last bite. And then you kind of wanted to eat it anyway, and you did. And it was fine.
It tasted like pea soup and smelled, though.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
No, I wouldn't eat a cookie if it would fall in a pea soup. Probably, here's the thing. You're eating the cookie, the last bite and the looks falls on the floor. You think 5-second roll, you pick it up, you eat it, and then you find out that there was like dog hair on the piece of cookie.
Yes,
So you like
that's
pull
what
the
it
hair
is.
out of your mouth.
That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. That is precisely what it is.
I need a
Emily.
fainting couch. What a horrible vision. I
Oh,
must
what a
move. What a horrible night for a curse. Listen, it's not enough to scare children. We also got to make them laugh. So our
We
next
do.
theme is make them laugh. One consistent thing throughout all the media that we have covered this month is that each story is just as funny as it is scary. Over the Garden Wall and The Dangerous Soup are both spooky, but they're also full of stuff for kids to laugh at. Uninvited and Night of the Living Dummy have scary characters, but there's also witty and sarcastic dialogue. That seems to be the secret sauce for kids' horror. You gotta scare them and make them laugh in equal measure.
Yeah, and I think like we talked a little bit about this with Over the Garden Wall, and we talked kind of around it with Uninvited, but like the laughs are kind of designed to entertain people who aren't there for the scare, like teens, maybe adults who are watching with their children. And it's also there to sort of pacify or ameliorate the fear that is generated from these really horrific images. And it is kind of a nice 1-2 punch, but I think particularly in kids media, it's serving those two masters very well. And I bet if we dedicated a whole year to kids horror, which we are not doing,
No.
we would probably find that this is like a very, 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 very important thing that goes into it. Now you can have horror and comedy and not be children's media. I think we talked about this with Nope. We've talked about it with like Ginger Snaps. It's everywhere. But like this in particular seems to be the way of using horror and comedy together for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I think we see that a lot in Night of the Living Dummy, and we'll get into that. But a lot of the humor is very like, if you're like, so this book came out in the early 90s. So if you were, say, a parent or a teacher reading this, you might see some of the humor in there and just be like, oh, well, that's gross or that's rude. But you kind of recognize like what is happening or the references that are being made. The ventriloquist dummy in particular, Stine wrote him to be reminiscent of another like insult comedian from back in the day in the mid 20th century. And so I think like on that level, it definitely works. And then I think for kids too, like kids like gross out humor. Kids like it when someone is rude
Yeah.
to another person. They like that kind of stuff. And that's totally fine. Like if it makes them laugh, I'm all for that. Especially like when we were kids too, like, Marilee and I can speak to this being like actual young children in the mid 90s and late 90s, but like there were lots of like scary and funny things that seemed to be happening. The world itself seemed not as terrifying or as big as it does today. And so I think the simplicity of it all makes it work a lot better for our childhood memories. So I'm kind of wondering, like, does this still have like the same impact on like an 8-year-old in 2025? Like, would they still find it funny? Would they be like, this is kind of boring? Do they need like a TikTok feed going on at the same time so that they don't get too distracted? Like, who knows? But I'm kind of curious, and I hope Goosebumps is still doing well.
I mean,
Disney
there was a new show on Disney Plus that like came out this
Yep.
year, right? I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but
I believe
that-
it came out last year and it ran for 2 seasons, and it was actually queer. Like when I was doing research for this, there were explicitly queer characters in it, and then the great conservative shift happened, and anything that had like queer stuff intended for children was deleted or canceled. And so that was unfortunately a casualty that Disney would go on to say was just like, well, it was a pool of numbers. And it's
Ugh,
like, well,
just-
girl, we know what the actual reason is.
I'm done with you, Disney.
Disney.
Get out of here.
No, but I swear to God, I thought like a new Goosebumps thing came out a couple months ago.
Yes, a
Really?
movie did come out.
Okay.
Ah,
I think it was
Oh
just
my
for streaming,
goodness.
but yeah, there was a new one.
Because like I remember every time I opened my streaming on my thing, I saw the heavily advertising this, and I was like, "You're simply not going to get me today. I'm here for Bake Off and Bake Off only."
So true. That was exactly my experience too.
Wow. I've pulled up this Goosebumps series. David Schwimmer is one of the stars of these television shows.
Yes.
Oh.
What a choice.
And then Jack Black played R.L. Stine in the
Goosebumps
two
movie,
movies.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow, the fall from grace, my man. Oh well, don't sell out your band members. Let them speak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's pretty horrific, but now we have to turn our focus inward to ask if the media that we are considering is horror, because we ask one of two questions every time that we consider media for the podcast. And the first of those questions is it horror? Were you scared reading Night of the Living Dummy? Does this belong in our conversation as a piece of horror media?
As I said, I found it scary. I think there's scary elements to it. I think it definitely would be scary for a kid. I don't know if it's like, it's not The Exorcist. It's not My Best Friend's Exorcism. It's not, Dracula or anything, but it is still got scary moments, scary themes, scary tropes. Yeah. And so by that measure, I do think that this qualifies as horror, especially aimed at children. This is by the Stephen King of children's literature, so it's gotta be. What about you, Marilee? What did you think of it?
I mean, I was never scared, but I'm also not a child. So that didn't
Thank God.
Yeah, no, I was like, be very weird if I was. So the fact that it didn't scare me didn't make me think, gosh, this isn't scary. It's not horror at all. I'm throwing it in the garbage like a fucking weirdo. No, it's just like, it is horror. And I think that it deserves to be part of the children's horror conversation. I think that this kind of thing is the reason why every streamer and their mother these days has a thing about mannequins. It's because they all were inducted into the fear of mannequins and dummies and that kind of thing because of this book. And it deserves to be in our conversation whether or not I found it personally scary.
You know, I think like Tyler, one of the things that I was most stricken by as like a fear response was the children not being listened to. And it made me sort of navel gaze on the month. And this is our first entry where the children aren't believed. Because I guess for a lot of the month, we haven't Wirt and Greg never interact with like
adults. The
speaking.
kids in Dangerous Soup are maybe adults themselves.
Correct.
And the one in Uninvited also don't have adults around. Yeah. So this is the first time they interact with adults. So of course.
Yeah, and then but that was like a mainstay of Jantinuary. It was like, oh no, adults don't trust teens. Here we are again. And so I do wonder if that just that being there does also add this like part of horror that all of this truly is. And I don't know, I like it, and I will think about it if when we come back to kids horror in the future. Maybe we'll find some where the kids are a little less believed by people in their life, because I think that is always a terrifying circumstance of someone not believing you.
Absolutely. And I do think that pulling on that thread from Jantinuary is really smart. Children and teens have a lot more in common than either group would like to believe about the other.
Sure. Yeah.
Whatever. Horror, yada yada. Get that shit out of here. It's very important to be on our podcast for it not just to be scary. It also has to be queer. So can we discuss this media using like the lens of queer theory?
Yeah, there's sort of this nothing burger crush that one of the girls had, and I couldn't even at one point in time I was like twin A, twin B. It only really matters once the dummies get involved. So one of the girls has a crush on some boy that I really just could have lost that as like a throw this away thing. But the story actually does like kind of throw it away, and so like I was like, okay, well, that makes me happy. I do think that the sort of competition between the twins is maybe the queerer part of all of this. It was kind of giving a little bit of ginger snaps here. They essentially in like the second third of the book are just having like a diva off of like who is better, and I do love that, and that's gay. Yeah, so that was like the queer part really that I was able to pick out the novel.
Yeah, I that's really well put. I think that for me, it's really hard to talk about this novel in terms of like queer analysis, because again, like the kids are so little, so it's hard to like. There's no queer activity or lack thereof of like. Again, there's that crush, but here's the thing: the dummies are so weirdly heterosexual. It is really like kind of a turnoff. It's awful the way that like these dummies are like about these little children, these tiny girls, be like, I will make you you are my slaves. It felt very weird in a weird way that I didn't like.
I also just feel like, doesn't the dummy have like potential to be a queer reading, like of something that doesn't quite have full control over its body? Like, I just think on spec, we should have read these dummies as more queer. And I think it's the characterization, Marilee, that sort of takes me out of that reading for them.
Yeah.
And I think that the genre of like a doll that also has like a soul inside of it can take us to much more queer places to discuss.
Hopefully they'll take us to queer places soon, but we're not there yet. My other thing about this novel that I kept getting stuck on, that you so aptly pulled out, David, is like the Jantinuary of it. Because as I was reading this book, I kept getting flashbacks from my best friend's exorcism specifically. Like the vibes in the later half of the book were so my best friend's exorcism in a very weird way. Like there was that weird goop that comes from nowhere that people should be more interested in investigating where the hell this goop comes from and like what's going on with the goop, but no adult ever looks at. The adults being useless. And then the supernatural having a very real impact on the girls' lives and their standing in the community, which is not something that you really think about a lot. But like these two novels both made a huge point of the way that people reacting to them experiencing the supernatural is like kind of a big deal. And I don't think I've ever seen that before or since in like such a specific way. So like I kind of want to give it queer points for that, but paired with the dummies being so fucking weird, I don't know how to feel. Tyler, what do you think?
Sorry, yeah, I think you could probably make the argument that because Chris begins to lose control of the situation, people don't believe her when she speaks. I think that is a very queer thing, especially because these are authority figures in her life that are not the ones believing her. So you have her parents, which I think is the most painful source to not be trusted by. But I think also Mrs. Berman, the music teacher, who is the one who encouraged Chris to perform at the spring concert. To have that kind of betrayal, I think, is also really painful as well. And it's for stuff that she can't control. So, I think that in itself is a very queer reading of the situation. And I do think the dummies, instead of being kind of the actual queer analogs in this, become like more analogous to like ideological and societal factors that force us into situations that we are not comfortable with and end up getting punished for because we don't fit in with like the standard behavior. So if Lindy is the one who is like the best example of a ventriloquist and is the one that's kind of held up as being like the gold standard, Chris looks all the more worse for it, especially because she's also a twin. So there's another aspect of like mixed identity, not knowing for sure who you are. Are you independent of this other person when you're trying really hard to be independent, but you also kind of want to be like them at the same time? I think that's very queer.
Yeah.
So I think this novel actually does have like a lot of queerness in it that you could pick out. It's just, I don't think R.L. Stine intended any of that.
No.
Right.
This is us hunting for gold.
And that's fine. Death of the author is very valid, and this is an actual example of death of the author.
I think that's so smart and such a great call out that I hadn't considered. But like when you think about it, I'm pretty sure Lindy, who is like the natural born talent ventriloquist, like she's the one with long hair, right? And so Chris has short hair. And she also is the one who's more interested in jewelry, but like Lindy isn't. So like you could have like a lot of things like how Chris doesn't feel in touch with like the societal ideal ventriloquism or femininity, however you want to put it, and like feels like she's disconnected from that in a way. So like there's something here that you could put together if you really wanted to. I don't know that the meat is enough to like justify that, but
on spec it's giving Katie and Sam. You've got one sister who's sort of seen as ideal by their authority figures and the things that evaluate them, and one who's a little bit more outside of the norm. And then Sam of course was like gay as fuck, so it's a little bit of that. Gone Home.
Thank you. Yes, I was like,
for some reason I went to Ginger Snaps.
Yeah, I was like, that is not their names. It's because
we've talked about a lot of sisters here on the podcast, so
there's something inherently queer about sisterhood, it feels like.
Imagine being at a delightful potluck with your queer buddies. You might not have expected to find an ad on your plate right now. If you want to enjoy an ad-free listening experience, you can join the Fear Coded Patreon at patreon.com/fearcodedpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to early and ad-free episodes on your very own podcast feed, and extra bonus content starts at $3 a month. So consider joining today at patreon.com/fearcodedpodcast. Now, don't worry, we're never going to try to sell you a weekly meal package delivering Soylent Green straight to your door. But if you would like to skip ads just like this one, you can join the Fear Coded Patreon at patreon.com/fearcodedpodcast and support queer artists for as little as $1 a month. And now that this ad is done, you have plenty of room on your plate for, potatoes and molasses. Well then, let's jump into the beat by beat of this Goosebumps novel, The Night of the Living Dummy. Lindy and Chris Powell are twin sisters who are frequently at each other's throats. We open the story with the kids competing with one another, and that becomes a through line for most of the novel, until we forget about it. After being sent outside by their exacerbated mother, the twins investigate the house next door, which is under construction. In the backyard is a dumpster, and inside this dumpster, Lindy finds a ventriloquist dummy that she calls Slappy. This is appropriate, as Slappy slaps Chris in the face later on when she tries to take him from Lindy. Lindy has a natural-born talent as a ventriloquist, and she receives an invitation to perform at a party. This drives a deep-seated jealousy in Chris, who wants a dummy of her own, and the proverbial monkey's paw curls as the twins' father arrives with a dummy for Chris that she names Mr. Wood.
So we immediately jump into the girls are fighting.
Mhm.
And
Yes, it's great.
it's great. Yeah, I think, and it's also like it speaks to a real experiences that kids have too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like Marilee,
Yeah.
I think you're probably the expert here when it comes to siblings because David and I are only children.
Yes, and I have 3 of them, so one of 4, so I've multitudes of experience. And this is so true. Like, I kept from throughout this entire novel. Here's the thing. Through my childhood, I had to share a bedroom with my younger sister. And like that drove so much conflict between the two of us. As soon as like she was able to move out and we were able to have our own spaces, so much of the tension between the two of us calmed down. So like having these children who have to compete for like attention and like resources within the household, and like and then you have no place where you could go of your own. You're constantly butting heads. I feel like as a twin, that has to be like exemplified by 1,000,000%, because you don't even have your own birthday.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I never even considered that. But that also reminds me, there's like a quick throwaway mention that the reason why Lindy and Chris have to share a room is that the parents can't afford something bigger.
Yeah.
Which
It's very
I think
real.
it's very real, and I think as like an adult reading this, it's appreciated that Stine threw that in there. I think it's just like a really quick justification, but I think it's still, it to me informs more of like the family dynamics. The father eventually has to go on like a business trip to Portland for a couple days, so he's out of town straight up.
Mhm.
And I don't know where this book is set. It's kind of set anywhere USA, but it is still just like that he has to go far away, and they're still not making enough money to make ends meet. So like I can understand where the parents are coming from, that they are so stressed out, and that could potentially, spill down to the children as well, who are struggling to create their own identities, especially at this point in time, because I think they're like somewhere between 10 and 12. You are really trying to find who you are at that point.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is like a very good age range for Stine to come in here. But then eventually we go to the outside. The kids are exploring kind of this creepy house that's still under construction, but they come across a dumpster. Now, David, I noticed that you had a very interesting input here about dumpsters, which is a brand new sentence. So please tell us more about dumpsters.
Yes, the word dumpster is it represents the brand dumpster, like saying I'm going to go Xerox something, or could you hand me a Kleenex? So named for the Dempster brothers, who were the ones who sort of created and made popular the notion of large trash storage and transportation.
Crazy.
I'm here for you for unnecessarily unimportant facts.
Did they keep ventriloquist dummies in?
Did they? Did they? Who's to say? Who's to say, Tyler? It was fun, though, seeing the title case in the novel and being like, oh, yes, that is the correct way to refer to a dumpster. I, for example, even though it is a word that we all use, I prefer a brand name dumpster fire to a generic dumpster fire. It's just not as good. It's just not as good.
A dumpster fire itself can probably now both have capital letters.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, with the fire, you got to keep title case going here. Like, you can't drop it. But I do like that they find the dummy here. I mean, it's a little contrived.
You don't say.
Like, let's go look at this house that's under construction. Let's jump into this dumpster. Oh, here's the dummy. And you know what, everyone? I knew there had to be a dummy because I read the title. So, like, whatever we're there in chapter 2, it's fine. But it did feel like, oh, okay, so it was just in a dumpster. That's fine. Maybe since Slappy has such a significant lore, there's more information about why he was in that dumpster to begin with.
I think I remember, again, I never read this book before, so this might just be like cultural osmosis. I heard people talking about it, but I could have sworn that I knew the fact that like Slappy the dummy was made out of like coffin wood.
Oh,
whoa.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
Yeah, so like I don't know where that comes from because he comes from a fucking dumpster. Which I was so surprised when they pulled out a dumpster at a random construction site that happened to be near their house. Which again, I don't know about you, Tyler, or David. I know you grew up on a farm, but in the part of Florida where I live, there was constantly construction projects around the neighborhood. People were building new homes, so like I totally got going to check out the new whatever. And dumpsters are places where people, especially construction sites, where people go to like toss their trash. Because you don't have to pay for that yourself. You have to go down to the dump. So like them pulling a random thing out, I was expecting, yes, of course, somebody threw this evil cursed dummy away at a place where it's never going to come back to their house because it's too far away. Nope, none of that matters.
It's giving Jumanji.
Oh,
it's giving Jumanji.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that sort of like, it doesn't really matter where it came from, but it is kind of like, why? I didn't mess with dummies or ventriloquism or even like dolls or stuffed animals as a kid. Did either of you have a dummy as a child or anything along those lines?
No, thankfully my parents were normal-ish.
Because like one of the girls talks about having a marionette. Did you put on like plays with your stuffed animals? Anything?
I mean, I had stuffed animals. I played with them. Like, I even had some Barbies, though I was never a Barbie girl. I was a girl, so I was given them as toys. Sometimes I played with them. But I would never put on a play for other people unless it was a family reunion with my cousins, of which there were many because we were a large Irish Catholic family. Like, I have more cousins than you could possibly understand.
Yeah.
I understand that because I have Irish friends who have a billion cousins.
Yeah.
But I David, to your question, I did have Barbie dolls growing up. Thankfully, my mom was really chill about that, and she would just be like, okay, if you want the Snow White doll, you can have the Snow White doll.
Oh, cute.
Great. Perfect.
Now, as I started getting older and I started watching more like, I don't know, boy TV, boy movies, whatever, the dolls that I did have would start going through adventures. And then my grandparents had a pool and a jacuzzi, so I'd like bring them in with me and they would then go on water adventures. And then eventually this upgraded to like action figures and Legos. So I shifted a little bit away from having dolls, but I did still like play with them and create scenarios in my head. And then I got to the point when I was maybe like 11, I went online and I saw that people were making dioramas out of their action figures, and I was like, well, I could do that. So I would take some of my toys and I would take pictures of them and just be like, well, this is the adventure that they're on. And I wouldn't post them or anything because I didn't know how to do that. But I just had Polaroids of like all my little Jurassic Park people getting chased by velociraptors or whatever.
This whole thing is so foreign to me just because I didn't grow up with any of this. I own more stuffed animals now than I owned in my entire childhood. Like, it just wasn't like I had a bear. Like, we weren't monsters, but like nothing themed. And now it feels like all I have, because God bless him, Danny brings over like a stuffed animal every other week. I think to curry my favor. And like first it was a Corsola, which is cute, one of my favorite Pokemon. Then it was a Cactuar because I like Final Fantasy. Okay, we're on like a point. Then it was a penguin for whatever. It's a penguin, yay, penguin. And then like he just starts bringing over this esoteric stuff like a fucking Hello Kitty, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is a Sanrio character. Like I don't know what to do with this shit. And so maybe what I need to do, Tyler, is put on little plays. I need to like. I mean, they're big, so I have to put on like a big diorama. But what do I have? I have nothing but time. I'll buy a lot of shoeboxes and I'll make a giant diorama for these large figures to play in.
But they have to be like, because I was creating like adventure scenarios and like recreating scenes from movies. You have to do the same.
Oh shit!
So
yeah,
you got it. So much like the librarian telling Merrily, you have two choices in this life about which book it prize you want. I need you to decide: do you want to recreate horror scenarios or do you want to recreate gimmick episodes?
Yes, I'll do a bottle episode. That'll be great.
You only need one shoebox.
Because it will be cheap. And it will be cheap. Let me tell you, if I do this, it will be a bottle episode.
I love that. No, like you have to put these little guys that you have in such situations, because like when I was playing with my toys as a kid, it was always like they had to save the world from the dark sorceress, and to do that you had to collect the 5 little things and then go on an adventure, and your friends are almost going to die. It was a whole production.
Wow, Merrily DMing from a very young age. I love it.
I love that. Well, unfortunately for Chris, she really struggles with her dummy, Mr. Wood. Chris practices in front of neighborhood friend Cody, but he's less than impressed. However, she must be doing something right, because Mrs. Berman, the music teacher, invites Chris to perform for the spring concert. This prompts Chris to try rehearsing in front of Lindy, Cody, and another neighborhood friend named Alice. Lindy offers to give Chris some tips, so she takes Mr. Wood from her. Almost immediately, Mr. Wood starts insulting Chris. Lindy claims that it isn't her, but no one believes it. After this, suspicious things start happening. Chris starts to hear strange noises at night and awakens to find Mr. Wood in a pose strangling Slappy. This prompts her to believe that Mr. Wood might just be alive.
Dun dun dun.
All right, listen, I could lose all these other children.
Same.
They're fine. Their dialogue is actually pretty good. I just don't need to know who they are. At one point in time, I was getting like a hair description off Alice, and I was like, what? This serves me in no way, shape, or form. RL, cut this out.
She talks twice.
And it's fine. And she also, here's what I'll say about Alice. Alice is snub-nosed, and I don't actually know what that means, but it always gives me the impression that the character is kind of like snooty. And so that's all I knew about Alice. She's kind of snooty and her dialogue sort of matched, but whatever. I do think it ultimately all ends up working to build the drama that leads to these moments, which is great. The only thing that caught me a little off guard was I was kind of expecting a little bit more of a runway of Chris's like, oh no, I'm never going to be good at this, into like, I'm opening for the school assembly, which is fine, whatever. It's like, gotta move. You gotta move. There's no time. You can't keep a child focused. You gotta go.
I mean, I kind of assumed that there were like time jumps happening.
Oh, were there?
I assumed.
Maybe this was a bad reading comprehension problem.
There were small time jumps, but I'm with you on that, Merrily. There were definitely some happening.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, cheerfully withdrawn. Then if there's a little bit more time, then I feel better.
No, because I also was totally thrown off by this, and I think even as a kid I would have been thrown off by this, because it just happens. And even if there had been some like internal dialogue from Chris thinking like, oh, well, Lindy's going to perform at the school, but she doesn't realize that I've got a big surprise planned. And then she just kind of mentions like, I've got a big surprise planned. And then at the dinner table, she's like, this is my moment to reveal the surprise. Mrs. Berman asked me to perform at the school concert. Blah, blah.
That'd be good. And campy. And I would have loved some camp.
Yeah,
yes.
We always need more camp here.
It's funny, without that, I was actually kind of like, ooh, is something supernatural happening? Are these puppets pulling the strings of like the political aspirations of Mrs. Berman, who originally had somebody else lined up and then the puppet like changed it? That is all for nothing, unfortunately, because I do think like that would have fed on the competition play if there was some sort of psychic influence that these puppets were having over the girls' natural competitive activities. But again, it all works. I'm polishing an already beautiful statue at this point in time.
I mean, I think that we did a little bit of work. Definitely some of the things could be spelled out more. Like, I assumed that they were time cuts because otherwise it wouldn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like there could be a supernatural explanation. Why not? I will say,
I'm kind of imagining like a Tanya Harding scenario with Mr. Wood, and he's just like, I'm gonna break the fucking kneecaps off of this kid that's gonna, play, hoops or something, stick and hoop on stage.
Play hoop, stick and hoop, stick and hoop cast is back.
Reference.
That's a rock fact.
Oh my God. Y'all are killing me. Okay, wait, real quick before we move on. This was so little kid coded where Chris kept talking about, like, I'm going to go to the library, get a joke book.
I loved that. I loved get a joke book. It was incredible.
Right?
Oh, I felt very seen in that moment because as a little kid, if I was just like, well, I got myself into a situation, how can I resolve it? Perhaps a trip to the library.
No,
adorable.
Did anybody else think that Lindy had already checked out the joke books and that's why Chris couldn't find any, and that's where
I didn't get that. I didn't get that because I was also like, David, you just got to read this book. Stop writing notes in the margins. Just keep going, buddy.
I love it.
And here I am. I never even considered that, but I love that idea now.
Well,
she
that's
would.
'cause you don't have any siblings. It's so sibling to be like having. Because again, maybe Lindy is just naturally funny. Like, she's naturally a ventriloquist. I could also see that happening. But like her very specific way of being like, I don't have any joke books. It led me to believe, oh, that's such a sister thing to have like already checked out the joke book. That's where you're getting the jokes from. And then tell your sister that you don't need them because you're naturally better at it. That's very siblings.
It's so fucked. I kind of love that a lot.
Yeah. But we never see a joke book in her bag or anything, so all for naught, probably not real.
But I want a director's cut of this book now where we just add in things like that. It's okay, it doesn't have to be 100 pages, R.L. Stine. We can make children work for it.
That'll be better. All right, so Chris simply cannot catch a break. First, she thinks her dummy has come to life. Now her sister is going to perform on TV. The rivalry between the sisters reaches new heights as Chris throws Mr. Wood to the ground in fury. Mr. Wood, his expression unchanged, seems to glare at Chris. That night, Lindy awakens with a jolt to the sound of Chris screaming in the kitchen. It's a gruesome scene. The fridge is empty and food is splattered all over the floor. In the center of the carnage sits Mr. Wood, gleefully, with his wooden stare. Mrs. Powell appears, and although the twins argue that Mr. Wood made the mess, she doesn't buy it. It's a dummy. Threatened by their mother that she'll take both dummies away, Chris and Lindy offer to clean up the entire mess. Mrs. Powell agrees, and the twins get to work. Afterward, Lindy reveals the awful truth. She's been pranking Chris. Lindy was tired of Chris copying her, so every mischief and trick that seemed to be done by Mr. Wood was actually done by her. Insane reveal.
What?
No.
Just no. I didn't believe this when it was happening.
And neither did I.
I genuinely thought this was some sort of, oh, she's possessed by the dummy now, and that it's making her say these things. And I guess at the end, this is actually what happened, and that I guess the real dummy was me, because I truly and honestly was waiting for the shoe drop on this one. And if this is actually what happened, this girl needs to see a professional. Like, this is a bridge too far.
Right?
David, are we owned by Lindy and Chris Powell? Because I feel like you and I are two dummies. Because I also thought that Lindy was being possessed by Slappy this time, because Slappy is the fucking dummy on the cover of the book. So I figured, well, then he's got to be the one pulling the strings.
Yeah. Good. I hope we ham every pulling the strings here. maybe a better book. It had a little bit more of that to it. Again, you don't actually need the Lindy betrayal because there's no like consequences for it. So I think we just had to write a way to get out of the scene. Like, instead of the girls just being like, could one of the dummies have done it, and just like sit and stew on that. Then we sort of make Lindy the bad guy so that we can like extend this, I'm going crazy thing, which that is scary. And I do like that. I just hated this moment if it was real. And since we have read to the end of the book and nothing came of it, I guess I have to interpret that it was real.
Yeah, so like as a sibling, I can confirm that sometimes you could be real mean to your siblings. Like that is real,
Sure.
That's true. Especially again, like the sibling that you are sharing a room with. My sister and I had like legendary fights when we were kids. But like this is a little insane. And by a little I mean like genuinely certifiable. Like it's so ice cold and beyond the pale what she did, especially like taking like we didn't discuss it, but like and the first time we see Mr. Wood doing anything, like he takes like Lindy takes Chris's clothes that she had set out the night before that she's supposed to like look fancy, so she has like a Betsy Johnson skirt that gets name dropped constantly. Neither of you guys are reacting understand Betsy Johnson, that's a name. So like especially at the time, like this would be kind of a big deal. Like in a silk blouse, and like when she wakes up in the morning, Mr. Wood is wearing that outfit. And like the silk blouse especially, like you would have to iron that if it got wrinkled, and like that's a huge deal. You cannot do that like in the 10 minutes you have to get dressed before going to school. And it's like taking Chris's jewelry, which is like a thing that she has a particular point of pride in, and like having the dummy wear that in like the huge mess, that's like a huge betrayal. So like I never felt like this was supernatural, but I did think, wow, do we have like a personality disorder? What the fuck is happening?
Yeah, it's too far. So I'm sorry, Marilee, are we saying Betsy Johnson here? Is
Yes.
that the famous designer Betsy
That's correct.
Johnson?
That was a Betsy Johnson skirt.
Yeah, okay. I did not connect that because I only think about Betsy Johnson as being a feature on Drag Race and not a person who makes children's clothes.
She doesn't make
like,
children's clothes. That's the thing. I feel like she does like more purses and jewelry stuff and like TJ Maxx now. Like that's her kind of vibe. But especially in the 90s, I feel like this was like an adult woman's skirt that like maybe belonged to their mom that was hers now.
Okay.
So like that was me doing a lot of interpreting, but even still, like this was a big deal designer skirt, and it got wrinkled, so she couldn't wear it to school for the fancy party or whatever.
I will say, as someone who didn't know what the Betsy Johnson brand was and thought that Stine had made it up, I felt like, okay, mentioning the name multiple times, it's really emphasizing like shorthand. Hey, this is a really important skirt.
Yes, I did get that, but I didn't connect it with future RuPaul Drag Race guest judge Betsy Johnson.
She was also
Lindy and
on
Chris
Project
Powell
Runway.
go on Drag Race.
Lindy and Chris Powell. Oh, Sugar and Spice dress up as Lindy and Chris Powell.
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Oh my god.
Do it.
Go on
girls.
Dragula with it.
Or go on Dracula, yes. Do a whole Goosebumps series.
I would genuinely love that. I'm not even fucking playing around.
I can't imagine R.L. Stine judging drag.
No.
I simply cannot.
No.
I wouldn't like
he's
that.
far too much of a heterosexual man from the Midwest.
Yeah, look, we've got literally one of the dummies in a dress, and none of us are using that as a way to comment on the queerness of the dummies because it's just not in the text. Well, Chris is naturally and understandably furious, unable to tell Mrs. Powell or risk losing the dummies for even mentioning them. Chris instead complains to Cody. Returning to her room upstairs, she prepares to rehearse, but finds a note in Mr. Wood's shirt pocket. On the note is a nonsense phrase. After Chris reads it out loud, she swears she sees Mr. Wood blink. Chris is invited downstairs to perform her routine for the neighboring couple, Mr. and Mrs. Miller. As she begins to perform, Mr. Wood starts insulting the Millers of his own free will. Chris tries to explain, but no one believes her. Although her parents are furious and almost ban her from performing, the show must go on, and so Chris begins to perform at the spring concert. Mr. Wood insults Mrs. Berman and then spews a smelly green liquid all over the audience.
Yeah, lots going on in this section.
Lots going on here.
Yeah.
Lots going on here.
So first of all, the nonsense phrase is Karu, Mari, Odona, Loma Malono Carano. Doing some research, I found out that Goosebumps says that it is essentially you and I are one.
Oh.
So I guess that would explain some of the dummy behavior.
No, it doesn't.
Well, it's unable to die.
Unable to die.
Because Chris
Yeah.
is still alive. So if they had just simply killed her, then the dummy problem would have been taken care of. Got it.
This immediately becomes
Wow.
like a Fear Street novel at the very minimum.
Yeah.
Wow.
Child death.
I was doing some traditional children's literature workarounds here. I did try to do a quick anagram on it. I did try to read it backwards. That felt very children's level
Same.
of like hide words. And then I was just like, all right, well, I've done enough. And then I moved on.
Just gibberish, my lord.
Just that the like note was even there. I was kind of like, what I wrote in my notes was notes ex machina. Like, just truly and honestly, like, what the fuck are we even doing here? The dummy has already spoken of its own accord. Why do we have to activate a special phrase? What's happening?
Because it didn't speak of its own accord. That was Lindy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I keep wanting that not to be true.
I know.
So I like reverse engineered that this has already been a live thing. Okay. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Because David, I had the exact same thought process that you did. It's just like, why is the dummy being activated when it was already speaking? And then I remembered, oh shit, this means that Lindy was actually telling the truth because it's only going to start acting up after Chris reads the spell.
Yeah. And like,
so I was displeased with that.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is nicely adding a tally to my list of never, ever, ever read a strange incantation you found out loud list. Because that is something that you see a lot of time in horror. And it's just simply never a good idea. And I don't understand why people do this constantly in every fucking piece of media.
So true.
I agree, Marilee, but and you have this list for yourself, but is this our first encounter with it here on Fear Coded? I don't think that we have bumped into don't talk Latin in front of the book Xander yet. I don't think we've had this problem as a trio.
I don't think we have it. So now we are going to have an official Fear Coded tally.
Yeah.
And we're up to 1 tick on that one.
I think so. I think because they never said any Latin. They didn't speak any spells in Ghost Ship, which is the level of camp you need for this. There was some singing. There was some singing in Italian, but that doesn't count. People sing in Italian all the time.
There's a whole country where people do that every day.
I was going to make that joke, Marilee. I'm so happy you did.
You and I are the dummies with a single brain cell, bud.
Exactly. You are Slappy. I'll be Mr. Wood.
Wow. Mr. and Mrs. Miller are really keeping up that thing that Katie brought up and we talked about while we were all together for Are You Afraid of the Dark, that like old people are bad guys. they're just there to be sort of like props of being old people. And I kind of love that. It is an enjoyable source of like strange conflict to me. Why? I don't have kids. I'm not going to have kids. If I had kids, I don't think I would invite over my neighbors to watch my children perform something. That seems grueling for everyone involved. Nobody wants this, right? Nobody wants this.
Okay, so I kind of read that scene differently. And like, maybe, again, I do a lot of work that authors don't intend. And this is simply who I am as a person. But like, that scene read to me like the Millers are neighbors and friends with like the Powell parents, right? But like they don't have any kids, they're older, they don't have any, maybe they like they're empty nesters, and so they like seeing kids. Chris and Lindy don't necessarily like hanging out with them, but their parents are always like, you have to spend 5 minutes with the Millers, and like them inviting them to perform with the dummies is just like an activity to do for the Millers who like kids but don't ever see their grandkids.
All right.
It's giving the Dinks from Doug. Another 90s reference.
My God.
I'm familiar with Doug. Doug wore the same clothes. That was a fashion icon to me.
I found the Millers to be both like creepy, funny, a little bit of both. I couldn't really understand exactly where Stine was like landing with them because I was also noticing like, are they meant to be a foil for Chris and Lindy? Because they were also described as being almost identical if it weren't for like some sort of gender marker between the two of them.
Yes.
And they were harmonious and everything, but there's not anything that's done to kind of create a parallel between the twins and the Millers. So it was also kind of like, what is the point of this except we need to prove that, Mr. Wood is alive? And I couldn't see it. But I mean, at the same time, it's a children's book, and we need to do stuff like that.
Well, I think children do need to learn the lesson that the longer you date someone, the more you just become looking like each other. It's just that is just naturally true.
This is true.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Marshall and I have only ever gotten called brothers once.
Wow.
I think it's the red hair on me.
We get called brothers all the time.
I believe it. You two look more alike than Marshall and I look alike.
My best friend, whenever we went out and about, we were always be like, "Oh, are you guys twins?" We both have round faces, brown hair, and glasses. I'm like a foot taller than her. She's like 3 cup size bigger than I am. We are not similar body types in any way. It is always like, no, that is simply not true.
All right, let's go to this performance.
Oh my god, the performance kind of drove me crazy a little bit. And like maybe because I'm an adult and not a child, and maybe when you're a kid, you're like trying to pretend like everything is normal. But like if it was me, I simply wouldn't perform with a dummy that had talked on its own the night before and said some really heinous shit that got you in trouble. I just would have not done that. And maybe I'm built different, but like, what do you guys think?
What are you doing here?
Truly.
Yeah. I certainly found that to be a questionable moment, but I'm like, okay, it has to happen. It's the Chekhov's gun of the book is the spring concert. So we have to pay it off in some way. And and at this point, Chris is also kind of like becoming more and more helpless. So her having to perform and not being able to say like, I don't want to perform anymore. Is like part of the horror to me. So I'm gonna allow it. But the real problem that I have with this scene is we get some pretty blatant kid-friendly fat phobia.
Oh yeah.
That's being levied at poor Mrs. Berman.
Yeah, I honestly we did 3 entries from the 90s here, and one was a Cartoon Network show. Not a 90s Cartoon Network show, but our 4th entry was a Cartoon Network show. I'm a little surprised that it took this long to get a little fat phobia, if I'm being really frank, because the 90s just were like a caustic cloud of fat phobia, and I mean there was like no opportunity for it and uninvited, and I think maybe we just got lucky to have in Are You Afraid of the Dark where that was not a feature, and then probably because of the creative leadership of Over the Garden Wall, focusing on different things, that wasn't there either. But wow, it sucks. It sucks even though it's coming out of the villain's mouth and you're meant to interpret it as villainous, but it's also there to make the young reader laugh. And that, I think, is the problem. And I also went back, like, is Mrs. Berman even big? Like,
she's at least slightly heavy, because I know that in the narration, Chris says a little fat phobic shit, and then it's way worse when it comes out of Mr. Wood's mouth, which I think maybe is giving points to the "we are one" kind of translation, because if Mr. Wood is taking all of the worst parts of Chris, and like bringing them to the surface, then that would make sense.
Interesting.
This sucks.
Yeah. I'm interested in that interpretation merely, but of course we don't know that at this point.
We don't.
No,
So,
and like as soon as Mr. Wood starts talking on his own and starts talking about like the slaves, any kind of like idea that could be like something that's maybe going on goes straight down the toilet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I found this part very unfortunate. I think it's not as bad as it could be because it's aimed at children, so it's not saying the most heinous stuff, but it is still programming in kids that being overweight is something that is bad, and therefore should be made fun of. And if you laugh at it, it's okay because this is something that you are allowed to laugh at, and that's pretty fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think this story has been adapted in the Goosebumps TV shows. And maybe referenced in the movie. I don't know. I've seen a little bit of here and there in my research about it.
I think that,
but I would certainly hope that we have moved past the point where it's like, okay, let's make fun of someone for their appearance and their weight, because that is very much a lesson that we should not be encouraging children.
I did a little bit of research, and I don't think that like this story gets adapted as much as you would think with Slappy, because like I think most of the adaptations want to have Slappy already as the dummy, so like some version of this story maybe, but like not as it is. I think I read somewhere that Mr. Wood shows up only one other time, and he has like a shirt that says I'm Slappy's eviler twin or something. So
Well, guess that makes sense with the fat phobia, but we are ready. We simply must move on from this horror show of body dysmorphia and talk about what happens next.
yeah.
So, Chris is suspended from school, possibly for life. Mr. Powell says that he's taking the dummy back to where he got it, and Chris puts Mr. Wood in the closet. The closet? That night, Chris hears strange sounds. When she investigates, she finds Mr. Wood walking towards the staircase. He is alive. Mr. Wood insists that the twins are now his slaves. Chris goes to fight him, but she gets punched hard in the gut. Lindy joins the fray. The two are able to restrain Mr. Wood, but when their parents come to investigate, Mr. Wood plays dead, or inanimate. With no parents to believe them, Chris decides that they have to kill Mr. Wood.
Can I tell you that if Tyler had been reading this to me as an English teacher, and did a little bit of that campy Uncle Arthur, you're my slaves, I might have been a little bit more endeared to this, because just reading you two are my slaves did not sit great with me. But hearing Tyler be like, you two are my slaves, that is a little fun. Like, for some reason, that sells it a little bit better, as this is for children. This is sort of a campy version of all of this. This is like the old woman from Over the Garden Wall is going to like turn these children into her slaves situation. It's not really the subjugation of another person that is so unnecessary to dive into, but instead it is this sort of playful fantasy world. That's so much better. But reading it in David voice, which is how I read books, it was not pleasant, because I read like a nonfiction narrator.
Yeah, you're reading it like Buffalo Bill is talking to the children.
Yes.
You two are going to be my slaves. And instead it's like, you two will be my slaves and do my bidding.
Yes, that's way better. That is way better.
Tyler,
I should really be doing like audiobook work here.
Yeah.
Ron Stine, contact me to voice your ventriloquist dummies. But yes, we are now in the scene where I think is like the crux of the novel. This is part of the climax, or at least we are approaching the climax rapidly. I think this is definitely the culmination of the parents simply do not believe the children.
Yep.
And that is terrifying to me as an adult.
Agreed.
As a kid, I still would have been scared by that, because I was so close to my parents that if they didn't believe me about something, that's a nightmare. And so if I were to read this, I would get scared. Congratulations, R.L. Stine. But yeah, I think even now as an adult, knowing that the kids are telling the truth and knowing how underpowered and disproportionately like put upon children are, because being a kid, it's a lot of fun, and we talk about like, you don't have to pay taxes, that's great, but it's very hard being a child. It's very, very hard, especially when you're trying to convince people of something, because adults are going to assume like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, you're making stuff up, or you're lying and you're a troublemaker. Instead of like, no, this kid, your kid, is trying to be honest with you. And I find that frightening. I think that's really scary for anyone.
I think we don't really talk about it, but like there's a real boy who cried wolf factor here. Because like, especially with what like Lindy did earlier in the book, as well as like the joking around that she had with like Slappy when she first got him, like constantly these kids have been saying shit like, oh, the dummy did it on its own, and like nobody has ever admitted to the parents that like that was the thing that Lindy was doing to freak out Chris, right? So like this is to the parents just an extension of what had already been going on, and like it keeps escalating.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's the boy who cried wolf, which is like probably my first Aesop fable I ever heard.
Yeah. It was a lot. However, I will say that there was a bit in here that did make me laugh out loud, where Chris tells Mr. Wood, "I'm putting you back in the closet." And like, that was very funny to me personally. Like,
if the dummies were just more queer,
God,
it would have been great. It would have been great.
Unless
and there's no
dial up the camp out like knob.
I'm calculating. Okay, I think I have something here. All right,
let's do it.
Chris is attempting to take back power and is reversing the narrative of queer people need to be trapped in the closet, and instead taking the shame that she feels as a queer person and is shoving that back into the closet, as she is now taking back the notion of what the closet is. And instead it is a place where that shame and fear that you experience as a queer person, put it away. You don't need that anymore. She fails. Sorry. But, it is what it is. Anyway, that is me cogitating something really quickly.
I love that. Anyway, Chris, there's still time.
Chris, there's still time.
There's still time.
All right, well, I guess it's time to get to the shitty climax. Are we all ready?
I hate a shitty climax. The worst kind.
So the girls try to decapitate Mr. Wood, but they fail. Sticking him in an old suitcase, they bury him in like the dirt pile for the construction thing next door, but that doesn't work either. He just comes back in the morning. After the Powell parents leave, Mr. Wood begins his rampage. He grabs the family dog, Barky, which is such a child named the dog name, and tries to strangle him. Chris and Lindy attack, and although it is a fierce battle, they're able to get the upper hand. The twins try to throw him under a steamroller next door, but they miss as Barky is almost hit by the steamroller instead. Mr. Wood escapes and gloats that the twins will be his slaves forever, only to then get crushed by a second steamroller. A rancid green mushroom-shaped cloud rises from the crushed dummy and then dissipates. The twins return home, relief coursing through their bodies. And then they shriek! Slappy, the dummy, has come to life, and as if Mr. Wood is gone. And then that's it. That's the end of the book.
I'm sorry. A second steamroller. A second steamroller has
hit the ventriloquist dummy.
I simply can't. Why is there one steamroller? Why is there one? Why is there a second one? I'm losing my mind.
The acreage on this next door house is huge, David. It's like the size of your childhood farm.
I'm struggling with this. So
they left out that they live in Wyoming.
Yeah.
But I love the steamroller driver who eventually kills the dummy gets off and is like, "Oh my god, did I hit a child?" And that is his dialogue 3 or 4 times. I thought it was a kid. I thought I hit a kid. I really thought I hit a kid. And I was like, my man, are you having like post-trauma here? Like, did you actually think that you rolled over a child? Steamrollers cannot go that fast. You probably could have stopped my man.
Excuse me. I watched the first Austin Powers movie, and that guy got crushed by the steamroller, and that only took, what, 45 seconds?
10 minutes of film?
You know, we'll have to put out a feeler to Q Division podcast for their take on the steamroller scene from Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery.
I mean, I haven't seen all the James Bonds. For all we know, Q Division already has like a list that they've been working on secretly this whole time.
Gadgets.
Gavin is just so prepared.
That being said, I mean, it's funny. So it did succeed in the curing the fact that this dummy was about to strangle and kill a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Get fucking crushed under a steamroller, you asshole.
And now the children won't be his slaves.
Yeah.
I am really glad that the steamroller driver did not hit any of the children, because the way Stine described him sounded pretty hot.
Oh, can I read a passage for you?
Oh, please.
He was a short, stocky man with big, muscular arms bulging out from the sleeves of his t-shirt. His face was bright red under a short, blonde flat top. His eyes wide with horror.
Dream man. I probably wouldn't. I'd want him to grow out the flat top. I will be honest. That's a little too cop for me. But
it's
the rest.
It's the 90s.
It's the 90s. Oh man. No, but he sounded like he would probably attend the Arbogast School of Portly Gentlemen, and for that,
I agree.
I'm grateful.
I'm grateful for him.
R.L. Stine did that for me, the 35-year-old reading a children's book.
Right here at the end.
Right here at the end.
Yeah, he was
trying to soften the blow of the horrible ending to this book.
Yeah, just like them walking in and be like, the windows open, Slappy is sitting in the villain chair and being like, you guys get rid of that guy? Hated him. And that's it?
Okay.
Insane.
So we're all on board that this is a bad ending, but I do wonder if there is some nuance between some of us, because I did not hate the Slappy reveal as a very Twilight Zone yank. I just don't think there was enough time between a second steamroller on the scene to Slappy reveal. That felt way too close together. And that is my problem.
For me, my problem is that I don't need a moral lesson here, but I would have liked some dialogue between Chris and Lindy that was like, "Oh, I'm so happy that's over. I'm sorry that I was such an asshole to you." Child translation, but
Sure. Yeah.
"I'm sorry I did this to you. I'm sorry too. Let's never do that again. Thank God all of this is over. Let's go get snacks and play fetch with Barky, and then it's like, Slappy.
Yeah.
There's no conclusion. Nothing gets actually like satisfactorily wrapped up.
Right.
And
No.
I don't know. And the Powell twins, never seen or heard from again.
Probably because Slappy killed him.
Yeah.
They're his slaves. They're like often fucking the Yukon chopping down lumber to keep him alive forever.
Yeah.
Slappy's
I don't
become
know.
the ship of Theseus, probably.
Marilee, do you share Tyler's frustrations, or did you have a different bad reading? Did you have a different accurate reading of the bad ending of the end of this novel?
I wish there was fucking something to hint
That's what it is.
that Slappy was conscious beforehand. That would have made more sense to me if there was something along the way that Slappy was also incarnated with this magic, or if the fact that Mr. Wood dying then released the evil into the world, and then Slappy as the nearest ventriloquist dummy absorbed that evil. Give me something how when it dissipates, maybe a breeze is blowing it in the direction of the house. I have a lot of questions for why Slappy is suddenly here. And also I do think that you're both right. An extra scene with the sisters talking to each other about what just happened really could have given the ending a little bit more space to breathe and be its own thing. But as it stands, the fact that Slappy is just suddenly alive, it really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it's just over. There's nothing else there. I guess an Outer Limits kind of twist, because I feel like Twilight Zone usually Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, William Shatner's character goes through a whole fucking arc. This one feels like half an arc for the Powell sisters.
Yeah, it's wouldn't it be fucked up
and
if...
then suddenly Gremlin on the wing.
Right.
You know, it's just, it doesn't really fit. So I was I'm pretty disappointed with this ending. But I mean, hey, this was a huge success for kids. A huge success in general for R.L. Stine. So clearly something worked. So maybe for kids it's less of a big deal. But as an adult reader, I am left wanting more. It feels like an A24 idea that has been sketched out, but then needs to actually be filled in some more, because I think there is an A24 movie living in this story
of Night of the Living Dummy.
Yes, I absolutely believe that.
Okay. I buy that, Tyler. I do buy that.
Yeah, I buy that for $1.
I buy that for a $10 million operating budget for the film.
Oh, well, okay then. I better wrap things up then so that we can get to work.
Not enough money. Not enough money for a movie, Tyler. Not enough money.
My nest egg, David. So how did we feel about Night of the Living Dummy in terms of horror or queerness after our conversation? Do any of you have final thoughts for this episode?
My big one here is that at the end of reading this, I wasn't interested in reading another Goosebumps. And I'm not the target audience, which is a child. But we talked about this before we started recording. Tyler and I both had a version that had an interview with R.L. Stine. I had no interest in even reading that. I'm a person who is usually vociferous for information. And I was like, nope, I'm fine. I'm done with this. I don't need to touch the Goosebumps novels again. I might be interested in some of the other media associated with the name, but these are for children, and they were for children in the 90s too. And I think that if I was going to critique Over the Garden Wall for some of its writing, I've got to critique Stine and some of his writing decisions, because children do deserve competently written horror. And we watched a lot of balls go across the plate on this one, and that was a bummer.
Yeah.
I agree.
My thing is 2 points. And point number 1, I was constantly hearing the Goosebumps theme in my head as I was reading this. So well done, Goosebumps theme composer. You fucking killed it on that. But then secondly is just Slappy and holding hands emoji, and then Jason on the other side, being huge franchise defining icons that are barely in the first entry.
Truly.
Very true.
Truly.
Yeah, real outside influence. Or outsized influence from their initial work.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you on that, Marilee. I think I want to touch now on I think we talked a lot about the queerness and what may be there, what's lacking in Night of the Living Dummy. So now I'm going to kind of expand the pool to just Kids Table horror month in general. I think that there was just straight up not a lot of queerness or queer representation in children's media from the 90s to the mid 2000s, and that's pretty fucked. Now we've talked about this with Over the Garden Wall. There were capitalist and other economic influences that caused that to happen in the 90s. I'm sure it's that plus like moral concerns because homosexuality, especially being exposed to children, might as well be like I'm showing them like a full spread of pornography. Like that was the thought process at the time. And that's really fucked. Obviously, that's not where we are anymore. Although people are really trying hard to return us to that era, which is not good either. But at least we did for a time in the end of the 2010s, and then probably just up to COVID. I would say COVID 2020 is when you could say like it has stopped here. We did start getting queer representation in media, especially children's media, and that was really great. I mentioned this earlier, but I think when COVID happened and then there was a large cultural pushback because fascists don't have anything else to use as a weapon than to just demonize queer people. Trans people are underrepresented. Dead End Paranormal Park, done by fellow Glitterjaw member Hamish Steele, was a wonderful piece of that representation for children. And it was like the first time I ever recall seeing a trans young person being represented in children's media, which I thought was huge and so wonderful. And it was truly such a wonderful show. And Hamish's Dead Endia is on my Christmas list, so I would love to read his works after that. But that is like a really good example of that queer representation that I think kids really need to see. And the way Netflix treated it was very unfortunate. Yeah. And that's where we are now. And I really hate that these people who are in power are so fucking dead set on criticizing anyone but themselves, because obviously the billionaires and the world's first fucking trillionaire cannot be the people at fault here. It has to be the poor marginalized people of the world.
Yeah. But I think that, the moral arc of the universe is long. It bends towards justice. And I do believe that there will be a recovery from these steps backwards, because
I agree. I
do feel like we're stepping backwards into the 90s, which sucks. I mean, I did great in the 90s, but the world was not great. So I'm ready for us to be back in an era when a company takes a chance on something like Paranormal Park, which I think should have been on our list of children's horror, and like whoopsie doopsie when we planned this month. We could have planned that one.
Yeah.
But
somebody had asked me point blank, is like, why aren't you doing that? It was like, that's such a question.
Yeah, that is such a question.
David had this video game he really wanted to cover.
Yeah.
So.
Tyler really wanted to talk about Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
We mentioned Over the Garden Wall a year ago, so we had to make good on that.
We had to make it on that. I'm not mad about what we chose for children's horror, because I do think it is a time capsule of what was happening from the early 90s all the way through the 2010s when Over the Garden Wall came out. It is that important time capsule. And as we step backwards in time with social policies, we need to understand what was happening in that era. And I think there's different economic factors now, and I think there's different religious groups who are pushing for certain things to happen and not to happen. And that fundamentalism is something we're always going to fight back against, so that queer creators can tell queer stories for queer audiences. And I think if you were a big Goosebumps reader, you probably had some analysis that came part of your life as a queer person because of that. I think that's brilliant, because all media can do that, and we deserve some media that's for us. And so just like I think children deserve competently written stories, I think all children deserve an opportunity to read and experience a queer story, because that might end up being part of who they are as adults.
Wonderfully put.
Yeah, like fucking round of applause for David.
What? Come at me, transphobes.
Transphobes, do not come on the pod. Frankly, if you are transphobic and you're listening to this podcast, please unsubscribe. We don't want
why?
you.
Like, genuinely.
Yeah, what the hell are you doing here? I mean, you got confused.
To also get to like the 140 mark, why? How are you here? Like, what happened?
Such a question.
Go back to Joe Rogan. Mama.
Because well, if you were a Rogan listener and this just autoplayed afterwards, like I could understand. But like, you made it this far.
You made it this far.
Hey, you know what? Stranger things can happen with things fucking algorithms.
That's true. Anyway, thank you for letting me rant over. David has spoken.
Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Except, of course, if you're a transphobe, again, already covered, get out of here. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, unless you're transphobic. Go away. We promise that the only spooky dummies here are us. We've got the market cornered, baby. We can prove it if you follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at FearCodedPod.
And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can join the Bats in our Belfry and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/fearcodedpodcast. You can show your appreciation at one of 3 levels. Early and ad-free episodes are available as low as $1 a month, and there is accompanying bonus content starting at the $3 level. This month, we had a video episode all about the video game Balatro. But next week, Marilee, could you just have a seat over here real quickly? Tyler and I have rigged up a Ludovicchio device, and we are ready to force Marilee to watch the holiday film Elf, as foretold by the ancient prophecies.
I have the eye drops ready.
Let's go.
They're Christmas cane flavored.
Does syrup have sugar in it, Marilee? We'll find out when we talk next week about the movie Elf.
Fear Coded is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you'd like to listen to more queer media podcasts, and why wouldn't you, check out the full roster of shows at glitterjaw.com.
And we're not done with creepy little things that scuttle around just yet. We're going to be dealing with a dummy of a different kind as we begin Doll-cember next month, where we will be celebrating dolls in horror all month long. And we're going to start that with probably one of the most recognizable dolls in 1988's Child's Play. But for now, we will simply say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
I'll take the legs from some old table. I'll take the arms from some old chair. I'll take the neck from some old bottle. And from a horse, I'll take the head. I'll take the hands and face from off the clock. And baby, when I'm through, I'll get more loving from the dumb dummy than I ever got from you.
David, maybe cut that out.
No. Oh my God.
David, I don't want to get sued.
David, apply a 2x amplifier to everyone's voices during that section.
Goodbye, slaves.
Yes.
Get me some legs. Get me a chair. And a bottle too. Give me a horse. Give me some time.
Lindy joins the fray.